Hello, everyone. Welcome. Today, we're going to be learning about cognitive thinking and how it applies to poverty and what we can do to change that. My name is Tiffany Glass. This is for my doctoral degree in community care and counseling, traumatology, our course on teaching and learning. We have with us Dale. Dale, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dale Henney. I'm a classmate in this class, and I'm looking forward to today's presentation.
Thank you, Dale. Tanika, would you like to introduce yourself? You're on mute, Tanika.
Okay, my name is Tanika. I'm also a classmate of Tiffany's, taking the same class, and I'm excited about your presentation today.
Awesome. Okay, Landra, would you go ahead, unmute yourself and you can introduce yourself?
Hi guys, I'm Landra. I'm just Tiffany's friend.
Hey, Landra.
And Teresa, go ahead and unmute yourself. Mom.
Yeah.
Now you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Hi, Mom.
Hi, I'm Teresa. I'm Tiffany's mom, Teresa.
She's a social worker.
Awesome.
Okay. Did everybody get a chance to take the pre-assessment quiz? How did we feel about that? It was a little interesting. I just want to make sure everybody had a chance to look
I did, but
at that. I'm going to go ahead and start off by sharing it was a little different, I know. We're going to talk about that moving forward. Educators perceive low socioeconomic status and its effects on cognitive thinking. So by the end of the lesson, you will be able to define and apply understandings of how poverty affects cognitive thinking, analyze and apply the hidden rules of social class as it relates to formal and informal language, and apply what you learned about the framework of poverty to your future practices. And our essential questions for the day that I want you guys thinking about as we go through this lesson are: how can having a framework for understanding poverty and cognitive thinking help us better understand our students living in poverty? And how does poverty affect our students' learning, and what can we do as educators to ensure their success? So let's start out by defining poverty. What do you guys think poverty is defined as? I kind of left us a little blank, fill in the blank here, but I want to hear what you guys define poverty as.
not being able to feed kids and keep a roof over your head.
So financial poverty, money, okay.
Not having the financial stability, like she said.
So we seem to be looking at poverty in terms of money, a financial aspect.
Well, maybe not having access to even, just not having access to necessities.
It is about, that is, Tanika, you're exactly right. It's not just about finances, it's about resources. Because a lot of times poverty is not about having money to put food on the table necessarily. Yes, that is an important part of meeting your basic needs. But poverty is not a culture, but a changing condition affecting the mind, body, and spirit, resulting from multiple adverse reactive situations. Okay, so let's stop for a second and take a look. My poll pod won't pop up for some reason. How many people, when you guys took a look at that quiz, were able to say, found something interesting? Do you think you could live in poverty?
Yes, I've lived in poverty. I grew up in Jamaica, and I'm not ashamed to say it. I didn't start wearing shoes till I was like 14 years old. So I know exactly what poverty is.
So you could check most of these boxes you could survive in poverty?
Yes.
How about you, Tanika?
Absolutely.
Teresa, Landra?
I'm not so sure, but I could probably do it.
How about that checklist on could you survive in the middle class?
Pretty
Yeah.
much am in it.
I think most of us are in the middle class right now. So I think the jobs that we consider middle class, teaching, police officer, soldier, and such the like, I think America, the middle class is the backbone of America.
Or what's left of it. So how many people could survive in wealth?
Not me.
I would like to.
Me
What
too, but I couldn't.
So when you looked at these three lists, what are some things that you noticed? Like what were some differences between poverty, middle class, and the wealth? Were there any differences?
So as I was looking at it, I thought that poverty, I felt like you needed to survive, like in the poverty category. You know, it talked about gun and fighting and living without a checking account and that type of stuff. You know, I got a sense of you had to have a survival instinct.
So using a knife as scissors?
Yeah. You know, whereas on the opposite spectrum in wealth, talks about managing companies and having different houses and 2 to 3 screens and so on and so forth, you know.
So would you guys agree or disagree with the statement that there are hidden rules or a hidden language that separates those who are in poverty from those who are in wealth or even the middle class?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And if we don't know the language of the wealthy or the language of the middle class, are we going to be able to be successful? Will our students be able to be successful?
No.
And is that something that can be taught?
Probably. I mean, and
Or
you
are you
said
just
hidden
born?
language. You said hidden language. I don't think the language is hidden, but I don't know if it could be thought because I've never been rich, so I don't know.
So I like where you're going with that. Okay, that's exactly where we were going with this. So sorry, I have to hide my controls. There we go. So how are kids from low socioeconomic typically different than those from middle or upper class? We see that they suffer from acute and chronic stress, executive function skills, and they have less emotional support. So stress, did you know that stress is actually healthy for us?
Yes.
It's good for you on and off. Now,
Yeah.
chronic stress is toxic, as a lot of us have started to see, and a lot of us are noticing even just with this course.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Reality. Poor children are exposed to one more stressor, more intense and longer lasting stressors, and have fewer coping skills than their higher socioeconomic counterparts. That's kind of something that we see as an obvious, right?
Yeah.
Oops, get back, went fast. However, under high stress, the brain engages in bottom-up decision-making for a more reflexive strategy. Okay, so what were you thinking? That common question that we ask our children, we ask our students, we ask ourselves, what were you thinking? De-stress shrinks key brain cells. So over here on the left, you'll see a normal brain cell. And on the right, you'll see a brain cell that has been exposed to chronic and persistent stress. What do you guys notice?
Wow. There's less brain activity on the stressful part.
The brain cells actually shrunk.
Sure.
So how much exposure to distress in time would you predict it would take for neurons to wither as shown? 2 hours a day for 2 months, 30 minutes a day for 7 weeks, an hour a day for 10 weeks, 10 minutes a day for 5 days.
All of the above.
Mm.
Right, Dale?
I was going to say, yep, all of the above.
All of those are situations where we are under chronic stress. And most of us have been taught that there is absolutely nothing you can do. Once those brain cells are gone, they're gone. So brains of lower socioeconomic status individuals are different than those, where areas include those responsible for working memory, impulse regulation, visual spatial language, and cognitive conflict, okay? So constant stress actually shrinks the tactile, the motor cortex, the planning and social conduct, but it particularly focuses on that language comprehension, that visual perception, and our ability to retrieve information. And if your learning is the ability to retrieve information a necessity,
Yes.
oh yeah. So learning, we're looking at analyzing and applying those hidden rules. So knowledge of hidden rules, it's knowing the unspoken cues and habits of different groups, okay? There are different, it's kind of like, I like to make a reference to the head up, the head nod. When certain groups get together, they recognize each other with the nod. That is considered a hidden language of the lower socioeconomic class. The wealthy recognize each other with that firm handshake. Language was also broken into what we call formal and informal registers. So having the language, the vocabulary, language, ability, and negotiation skills necessary to succeed in school and or work settings. And then there's that relationship role model component. Having frequent access to individuals who are appropriate, who are nurturing, and who do not engage in self-destructive behaviors. Educators, we are those people. We are those people that lead by example and teach the kids the hidden rules and that formal language. Because most of the time, low socioeconomic status kids are actually receiving the majority of their social cues, social training, and language acquisition at home. So this is an actual brain of a three-year-old child. On the left is the normal brain. On the right is a child who has experienced extreme neglect and trauma. And we see the difference in the size of the gray matter of that child's brain just by the time they're 3. Impacts on low socioeconomic learners are lack of vocabulary for school success, subgrade level in language, poor mood regulation, and they have weaker executive functions. Again, that part of that brain that says impulse, working memory, processing, sequencing, all the things that make you successful in school. It's all right here. It's stress. And stress is something that we see children in poverty facing daily. So early language, yes, Dale.
And those are the same age, those two
Same
brains?
age, yep. They are both a 3-year-old child's brain. The one on the left is a normal, healthy, middle-class child. The one on the right comes from a low socioeconomic status.
Okay.
So early language and low SES, as you can tell, language acquisition skills, that formal and informal register. Someone in the wealthy class, 45 million words. The middle class, 26 million words. The lower class, 13 million words. And the scale at the bottom is showing you a 12 months, 24, 36, 48 months and up. So by the age of 4, there is a huge gap there. 50% between the middle class and the low and those living in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that's difficult to overcome.
It is.
So, and now we're going to challenge those previous misconceptions. We've all been taught that once it's gone, right?
Yeah.
For over 100 years, scientists accepted as fact that our brain never grew new cells. That's wrong. New understanding tells us that brains can and do change every day. But if the experiences stay the same, so will the brain. The product of new brain cells is called neurogenesis. So neurogenesis is reduced again by those things that our kids living in poverty experience all the time. Distress, inactivity, boredom, depression, poor nutrition, isolation, that low SES. So it's not that these kids can't learn and those brain cells can't grow new brain cells. It's the definition of insanity. They're repeating the same behaviors over and over and over again, expecting a different result. They need new experiences. So how do we do that? Teachers. That's how we do it. Teachers are the strongest change agents in students' lives. Brains are designed to change. They want to change. We can make difference. We can make a huge difference through frequency, empathy, teachable moments. So this is all a great theory, right?
Yes.
Everything's great when you hear it, but how do you make it work? We make it work by teaching those hidden rules of the middle class. Because those middle class rules govern schools and work. Students from generational poverty come with a completely different set of hidden rules and don't know how to navigate in the middle class. We address the language issues and the story structure of casual register causes many students from generational poverty to be unmeditated, and therefore their cognitive structure needed inside the mind to learn at the levels required by the state, it's not developed. That's that formal, informal language component. And teaching is what happens outside the head. Learning is what happens inside the head. For those students to learn, direct teaching must occur to build these cognitive structures. The hidden rules of class, specifically formal language, can be taught. So brains can and do change every day, but if the experiences stay the same, so will the brain. What we do as educators makes a difference. The hidden rules must be taught in order for individuals to be able to make informed choices, in order to move from the poverty class to middle class or middle class to wealth. One must give up relationships for achievements. Okay, now I just want to take a quick look at what we're saying as formal and informal language. Okay, and then I'm going to play a little video clip and we're going to do a little activity. So informal language, howdy. Formal, good morning. How many of us have said, I don't get it? That's informal. Formal would be, I'm confused. Or show me where it is. Please show me where the cafeteria is. Are we starting to see the difference a little bit here? Who helps the doctor? Will the nurse assist the doctor? Your idea is better than mine. I think that your idea will help solve this problem. Informal versus formal language. I'm going to show a little video clip. Who has actually watched the show Ozarks?
I have.
Anyone else? It's actually good that you guys haven't seen it. The show Ozarks actually looks at the wealthy, the middle class, and what is going on? I'm sorry. Can you guys hear the volume?
Yep.
You can hear it?
I heard a little beep, but
All right, hold on one second. I'll pause my recording.
Anybody who leaves you hanging like that sounds like a real loser. Hey, if you're not working all night, maybe I could take you out to dinner? And your kids. Or just you. All right, I'll be right back.
Don't touch me. No, you have to pay me right now.
Give me something good.
He owes me $30.
For that dead fish impersonation, my pillow is far more arousing.
Okay, Mr. Langmore, what's the problem?
The problem is, you need to eat a dick and get the fuck out of my face. Now, where were we, honey?
No, don't touch me.
Hey, Ruth, your dad's causing trouble.
So, people think you're in charge. Deal with it.
Do that twirly.
Okay. I understand you weren't satisfied with your dance. But I think we can both agree that sometimes our expectation exceeds reality.
Fuck that.
So when you look at it like that, understanding that it's not personal, the anger can dissipate and you can see that she deserves her money for services rendered.
That's mighty persuasive, I must say, but I think I'm gonna take a page from my baby girl on this one.
Okay, Dad, you gotta pay her and go.
Yeah, right. Look at him. He's fine. It was funny.
No, I'm not joking. You don't think I'm in charge here? Mike! Make sure he finds his way out.
Back the fuck off, Mike. I'm going. Fuck off.
Thanks. You always have to cause some shit, huh? Do it somewhere else. Taking you off the fucking schedule. Get the fuck up.
I know it was a little abrasive, but it was meant to be. What are some things that you guys noticed about that?
Well, I couldn't see the visual, but I've seen it before. They were in the strip club, right?
Correct, but to paying attention specifically to the language.
Oh, you had middle class and lower class.
How do you know?
Just the way that they say things. They're I don't know how to say the word. I'm thinking.
Who do you think was actually in charge?
It was
Who do you think the manager was?
this little blonde girl. But
Who do you think it was? Dale, you're muted.
Sorry, I think it's the female, the girl that was in charge.
What do you think, Tanika?
Well, I wasn't able to actually see the video, but I also think it was the female.
It was actually the male. He had been they replaced the female with the male because of the female's language and her tone and the fact that she was from a low socioeconomic background. They didn't think that she made a good impression for a face of a business.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you guys think? What was the difference in between the way the female spoke, Ruthie, and the way the male spoke, Sam?
I think she was just a little more outspoken than he was. Because they both use same language, I think. It's just that she was a little more, abrasive.
I was going to say he's more polished.
Yeah.
Polish, there it is. Was it really the same language? Were they saying the same thing?
No.
No.
Yeah,
Who was more professional?
He was.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going on that, we're going to do a little practice. We're going to apply what we learned. Okay? We're going to try an activity where we're going to turn informal statements into formal language. Our first one, Harry Potter books rule. How would you say that in formal language?
Harry Potter books are enjoyable to read.
That's good. That's a good one. How about, I don't get it.
I don't understand it.
Still informal, Dale.
I am confused.
About this and fill in the blank. That's closer. How about, this is one of my favorites that's used in a lot of trainings. This sucks.
Sucks.
How would you turn this sucks into formal language?
Uh,
I really don't like what's going on.
Yeah.
Nope, try again. And Mom, you've heard it, so stay out.
I am not having a pleasurable experience.
Ooh, very close, Tanika. It would technically, it's, I no longer find this activity enjoyable.
uh,
How about grab me another slice of pizza?
Could you please get me another piece of pizza?
another slide.
Good. Would you mind please getting me another piece of pizza?
Right.
Those answers are all wrong.
Those are all incorrect answers.
Oh, nope, still informal. Add some resilience and positivity, Dale.
All those answers are incorrect.
Nope. You got this. You can do this. You put in a lot of effort with those, but we're not quite there yet.
Ah, got it.
Because
There might be a better answer for these questions.
good. How about what's up?
Sup, Doc?
Would you
How are
walk
you
up to
doing
a,
today?
yeah, because would you walk up to a CEO and go, "What's up, dude?"
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
A
Yeah,
lot
why
of
not?
kids would. Exactly. A lot of people don't know why you wouldn't do that. Or how about, oh my God, we had the best time ever.
Valley Girl.
How would I put that into formal language?
I really enjoyed my time doing this, whatever the event was.
Right.
So a big difference between this is putting things in positive framing, as well as using, yeah, please, thank you. No can, this ain't, how about, let's try this one. This ain't working for me right now.
Right.
Well, it ain't.
Would somebody from the wealthy class say, this ain't working for me right now? You got to hit the bricks.
Probably
No.
not.
No.
Would somebody from the middle class say, those witches be yapping all the time. They got to go.
Probably not.
So what would they say? This is all about that professional
need-
language.
Please, please leave. You're no longer welcome here.
There you go. Okay. Why is this important? How
You're
does this
using-
relate?
You're actually being polite and telling them they have to leave.
But why is all of this important? Let's go back to what we were talking about in the very beginning about kids from low socioeconomic status not understanding the hidden rules and the language of the middle class and the upper class. Let's look at our video. Who would you hire? Would you now that we've done a couple more examples? Would you hire Ruth, the female?
No.
Who goes, get the fuck
No.
out of here? Why not? Is the F word an appropriate word to be using as a business professional?
No.
So who would you hire to run the business? Sam, the male, or
The guy.
Ruth?
Yeah.
The male.
Why?
He's more professional.
And Sam comes from which class, do you think?
The more affluent or
The
wealthy.
lower socio, yeah.
Nope,
Well,
that's Sam. That's Ruth,
Or
I think.
Sam, the guy, middle class.
Yep, and you're right,
But I
Tanika, it's
also-
middle class. Yes,
I
Dale.
also think it's your upbringing as well. You know, like yes, all these things go against you that we discussed earlier. You know, access to resources, your level of education, and all that stuff. I think all that goes against you. However, I do think that people could grow from that. You know, people could still become educated and well spoken, even though, but it still goes back to how, you know, where do they get that training and that education from?
Tiffany,
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Most
want to make a just an observation. One of the things that I'm thinking about as you're doing this and thinking about education and low socioeconomic status is when we're talking about them taking standardized testing.
Yes.
You know, the language that the vernacular I'm used to in my culture is totally different than what is going to be on a standardized test. So them learning these hidden rules of language is so important so that they can see. Some kids don't know what a curb is or a sidewalk or a lawn. It's
Yes.
my yard or the grass. I don't know what a lawn is.
Yep.
So, I mean, I really like this lesson in teaching children the hidden rules for even the purpose of excelling on standardized tests.
And
Because
that
they're
is
not-
actually,
they're
I'm so
not
glad you
teaching
said
to
that.
They're not teaching to my vernacular of language at all.
And that is actually if this had been a longer lesson, I actually would do this in a full thing. It is looking at, yes, our standardized testing teaches to the language of the middle and the upper class. It does not account for those kids who don't understand the hidden rules, that speak in that informal tone. And that is a huge reason why that we need to rethink our educational system and reframe the way we do things.
Mhm.
And that starts with us as educators being those role models, because we have to, where else are these kids going to get this? How are they going to break that cycle of poverty and get that education, receive those jobs, pass those standardized tests if they don't know the language? Then we just proved that through cognitive reframing, those brain cells, we first have to reduce stress at home. We have to, by providing resources to those living in poverty, so that the teachers can then come in and teach those hidden languages and rules. So that's where we come with our wrap up. Here's what we learned. How has our learning about poverty's impact on the brain and cognitive development changed your way of thinking? How can you use this and why is it important? And I want to do a closing thought. For things to change, you must change. What is one thing you will do differently? So I kind of want everybody to take a second, think about it. And I know, Tanika, bless you. You picked right up on where I was going with a lot of this. So did you, Dale and Landra. So take a couple of seconds and we'll do a round robin close. Let's learn from each other. Whoever's ready to start.
So for me, I have a 4-year-old son, and both my wife and I are Jamaican, and there's a dialect that we speak in Jamaica, but you know, we're cognizant of the fact that, you know, we live in America now, so we have to teach our son English as well as that dialect, you know, so he could maintain his culture. But I think what we could do differently is we need to think outside the box.
How would you think outside the box now knowing that even in your daily speech that you're not necessarily speaking the language that your child is going to need to be successful in the wealthy or the upper class.
I mean, I think it starts with practice. You know, like you have to practice formal language, and you have to not abandon your culture or your colloquial language, but, you know, you have to practice formal language, formal speaking.
And so I like what you're saying there, Dale. It's situational. You need to know how to shift gears from when it's okay to be formal at home with your family and friends, and when you need to be in that formal register in school, in places of employment, at job interviews. Because I don't know about anybody else, I have actually had a kid come in for a job interview and go, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?" I had a job application handed in, written in crayon.
No.
Yes, I have.
No.
These are things that are things that could have been addressed earlier. We have to find a way to break this cycle. We have to find a way to give these kids the knowledge that they need. Tanika, are you ready? You're muted.
Sorry. One of the things that I'm thinking about, not just, thinking like, how can I use this? Because teaching at a HBCU, and a lot of my students that come in, when they're doing presentations, they'll say, "Well, you know what I mean." And I'll say, "No, I don't know what you mean." So I need you to, explain it. But for me, this presentation has really taught me to see it from the context in which it is. That it's not that they're just being lazy or, they're not. But now I'm looking at it from a different perspective. And actually, I can educate them on, which I typically do, say, okay, you don't want to go into a professional presentation and say, "Well, y'all know what I mean." So I'll definitely comment on that with them, but actually taking them aside and saying, you can retrain, this neurogenesis that you're talking about. You can actually start learning and replacing words for "you know what I mean." And I've done that before. I've asked the other classmates, "Hey, what is she trying to say? Give her some words that she can put in place of that word so that she won't keep saying, 'Well, you know what I mean.'"
Or my favorite is when they are saying, you hear like
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the worst.
So I mean, this has been great. This is a great presentation, Tiffany.
Thank you. Landra, what would you take away from this? And
just it's more positive thinking too. Yeah, you gotta think more positive instead of in the negative, and and then be more adaptive in different cultures and learn, and then take that and help other people learn what they need to survive.
of adding those resources, finding just daily ways to reduce stress in the home allows for less shrinkage, right? We saw those brain cells shrink on that slide before. We saw that big difference back here of our brain shrinkage. Just finding ways in the home to create less stress for these kids makes a big difference. It allows for that neurogenesis to begin. Yeah. Teresa?
I think too, when you're saying that, when you were talking about the formal and informal language, when you said all those answers are wrong, well, that would be one example of making a child more stressed. Correct?
Yes.
And what I take from it is not to criticize as much, and to look up the way people say things, and to watch my own language as well.
that having that growth mindset. A lot of us are so stuck in that fixed mindset that we don't expand our thinking. Something's right or wrong. People are talent gets you where you are. Well, not really. It's not just there is no such thing as talent. There is hard work. Anybody is capable of anything. And as adults, the key for us as educators is reaching out to these kids and being that positive role model, teaching from that growth mindset. Does anybody have any questions or any other comments or any ways that you think I could improve this lesson? Gail, you're muted.
I was saying that I like the use of your slides and all the scientific data that you incorporated in the slides. I thought those were very, very beneficial to me. I think the thing that stands out to me the most was the normal versus the extreme neglect, the one that you have showing right now. Like, it's just unbelievable how much stress could do to our brain.
Tiffany, I think
Isn't it? But neurogenesis tells us. Yes, ma'am.
No, I was saying I think the most powerful part of the presentation for me was you allowing us to reframe the use of informal language to formal language, because that is also a skill. In learning how to do that, I'm able to kind of use that perspective in teaching a student. Me having to really engage with, okay, well, how would I say that? Because I would just say, hey, can you get me a slice of pizza? I wouldn't be thinking, oh, can you please hand me another slice of pizza? You know, so having that column and having to actually force myself to think differently and be able to verbalize differently, to me, was very powerful.
It's not easy. I found it very, very difficult to do this myself. So here's some actual, like, I had to sit down and come up with, I did a matching activity. So give me the book was please hand me the book. Those answers were incorrect. Those answers are all wrong. You could say that. That was one of the ones, but I don't, like my mom, like Teresa said, I don't like using incorrect because it's not a growth mindset. Instead of grab me another slice, you guys were good. Can I please have another slice? We had the best time ever. My family and I had a very pleasant weekend at the beach. What's up? How are you doing today?
Mm-hmm.
Come here. Will you come over here, please? It's something just as simple as, Gail, and you know this from the military, okay? Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Thank you, please. If we can start there with the basics, I think we can change a lot of kids' lives. And I think understanding that, like you said, Tanika, that these kids aren't just being lazy. They really don't have the skills.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys so much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
If you guys have no other questions, you are free to go.
All right.
I'm fine.
Bye.